The Middle East is preparing for a new phase of war. The White House officially announced today that Donald Trump's team held a final discussion on new strikes against Iran. Washington is confident that new missile strikes against the Ayatollah regime could help protect protesters from brutal suppression by the authorities of the Islamic Republic. At the same time, Donald Trump himself and a number of high-ranking Republicans stated that the United States of America will undoubtedly intervene in the situation in Iran. And Senator Lindsey Graham even stated, quote, "Help is already on the way." Right now, absolutely all American media are talking about Donald Trump preparing new strikes against Iran. And here I would like to remind you that in June 2025, during the 12-day war, it took 3 days from public discussions to an actual strike on Iran. This means a new strike could go unnoticed, as evidenced by Israel's defense forces urgently going on high alert. Moreover, it is reported that Israel is already preparing a new military operation in the Gaza Strip amid the possible weakening of Iran. Meanwhile, in Tehran, all available armed forces and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have also been mobilized. Tehran has warned the United States and Israel that if they actually interfere in the nationwide protests in Iran and carry out strikes, Iran is ready to attack Israel and United States military bases in the region. Meanwhile, the Ayatollah regime is clearly in a state of panic. Officially, more than 100 people have already died, and last night the Ayatollah regime carried out mass arrests of protesters. But this hasn't stopped the protests. As of today, they have already spread to about 200 cities in Iran. Moreover, protesters are increasingly taking up arms. My name is Alexei Petrovich. Let's discuss this complex topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and leave any comment under this episode. This really helps a lot in promoting the content on YouTube, and I would be very grateful to you for that. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. So, I'll start this episode with the latest news update about the protests in Iran. After the Tehran authorities declared the protesters to be terrorists, the Iranian authorities conducted raids last night and detained a number of key participants in the protests that have swept the country over the past 2 weeks. The chief of police warned that offenders will be severely punished. Earlier, let me remind you, the protesters were threatened with the death penalty. And I would add that in 2025, the Ayatollah regime carried out a record number of executions in the country's history. The official number of people killed as a result of the protests has reached at least 116, and about 3,000 have already been detained. Iranian state television reports casualties among security forces, portraying control over the country and not mentioning the killed demonstrators, whom they increasingly refer to as terrorists. They don't mention them at all, they just say that a certain number of Basij or IRGC fighters were killed. However, Iran's state media also acknowledged that protests continued until Sunday, with demonstrations in Tehran and in the major northeastern city of Mashhad. At the same time, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned of upcoming crackdowns despite warnings from the United States on Saturday. On January 10, the regime increased its threats. In particular, Iran's Attorney General Mohammad Mavahidi Abdollah Azad stated that anyone participating in the protests would be considered an enemy of God, which is punishable by death. Let me also quote the Attorney General of Iran here. Even those who helped the rebels will be held accountable. Prosecutors must, without delay, bring charges and prepare the grounds for legal proceedings. For those who, by betraying the nation and creating instability, seek foreign domination over the country, the process must be carried out without leniency or sympathy. In addition, the Iranian regime had already cut off the country from the internet and international phone calls on Thursday, January 8. There is increasing concern that the internet shutdown will enable Iranian security forces to conduct violent crackdowns, as seen during previous protests. The outside world will learn about it too late. The scale of the new unrest sweeping Iran appears to be the largest since the 2009 demonstrations, and some analysts believe these protests are the biggest since the overthrow of the Shah in 1979. And at this moment, the Donald Trump administration makes it clear that the games with the Ayatollah regime are over. Donald Trump himself was the first to speak out. Next is his quote, "Iran is striving for freedom, perhaps like never before. The United States is ready to help." Later, Senator Ayatollah, Republican Lindsey Graham, addressing the Iranians, said, "Your long nightmare will soon be over. Your courage and determination to end your oppression have been noticed by Trump and by everyone who loves freedom of speech, Trump. Make Iran great again means protesters defeating the Ayatollah regime, as Iran can't be great under religious rule." And finally, Graham adds meaningfully that help is already on the way. And after that, insider information from the White House just started pouring into the American media. And as a journalist, I can say that these are deliberate information leaks that they're not even trying to hide, but which are still too early to announce publicly. So, the White House stated that Trump was informed about new options for military strikes on Iran since he is considering following through on his threat to attack Iran for suppressing protests. It is noted that Trump has not yet made a final decision, but according to officials, he is seriously considering authorizing a strike in response to the Iranian regime's attempts to suppress demonstrations sparked by widespread economic discontent. According to sources, Trump was presented with a range of options, including strikes on non-military targets in Tehran. When journalists asked directly about this, Putin's representatives responded that Trump's statement about being ready to help the protesters should be taken seriously. And here I'll quote Trump himself, "The United States is ready to help. I stated firmly that if they start killing people, we will intervene, we will hit them very hard where it hurts." And that doesn't mean landing troops, but it means a very, very strong strike where it hurts, and now it's already being reported by Bellom. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio urgently held a phone conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday, and later Rubio briefly wrote that the United States supports the people of Iran. Later, sources in the White House stated that the United States may be preparing a strike on the basis of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as they are involved in suppressing protests. And now it has become known that right now, commanders of the United States Armed Forces in the Middle East have received orders to strengthen military positions and prepare defenses for possible retaliatory strikes from Iran. And, as experts say, now is the most suitable moment for a strike against the Ayatollah regime. Why is that? The thing is, on January 10, the Iranian army announced its intention to join in suppressing the mass protests. The Iranian military promised to firmly defend national interests, accused strategic infrastructure and state property, then blamed Israel and terrorist groups for organizing the unrest, and promised to suppress the enemy's conspiracies. As long as the regime focuses on suppressing protests, it won't have enough strength to respond to attacks. At the same time, Tehran warned the United States and Israel that any interference in the nationwide protests in Iran would be unacceptable. The Speaker of the Iranian parliament, Ghalibaf, made a statement, quote, "In the event of a military attack by the United States, both the occupied territories and United States military and transportation centers will be legitimate targets for us. Tehran may also take preventive measures against potential threats as part of legitimate self-defense. We are not limited to only responding after an attack." At the same time, Israel has been put on high alert amid reports that the United States may intervene in events in Iran. Reuters reports this, citing 3 Israeli government sources who participated in the latest security consultations. No details have been revealed yet. And it's important to note here that the news about the United States transferring dozens of aerial refueling and heavy military transport aircraft to the Middle East for 4 days now has gone largely unnoticed. The aircraft fleet is being transferred from American air bases located both in the United States and in the United Kingdom. In turn, the Times newspaper writes that since last Saturday, a fleet of at least 14 C-17 Globemaster transport aircraft and 2 heavily armed AC-132 helicopters has landed at 3 Royal Air Force bases in Suffolk and Gloucestershire. And here it's important to understand that a United States attack on Iran could be unexpected, despite the large-scale transfer of the aircraft fleet. This raises the question, why is no one really paying attention to this? Because many experts have noted that last night the United States of America once again attacked Islamic State of Iraq and Syria forces in Syria, as well as transferred the aircraft fleet. They link it to operations in Syria, not to preparations for a strike on Iran, but this could be a deceptive maneuver. And if Iran is weakened after the United States attack and the protests, this would be the perfect moment to finish off Hamas forces in the Gaza Strip. Well, that's probably what the Israeli strategist thought. Israel has stated that the Israel Defense Forces have developed a plan to resume intense fighting in the Gaza Strip as early as March. As part of this scenario, an offensive on Gaza City is planned in order to expand the area of the enclave under Israeli control. But such an operation is impossible without the support of the United States, which has acted as a mediator in peace negotiations. But rumors about preparations for a new Israel Defense Forces offensive emerged right after Netanyahu's recent visit to Washington. So the coming days could change a lot in the Middle East. I'll leave it at that for now, friends. If you found this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this YouTube channel financially with any donation by using the links and details in the description of this video or the QR code on your screen. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.